Happy Tuesday, damnation. Donald Trump seems to maybe have lost some of his shine. It used to be that when Donald Trump found himself on Capitol Hill, it was basically like the scene from Coming to America with the red carpet rolled out and rose petals falling from the air as he walked and everyone kissing the ground that he walks on. Well, now fast forward to 2025 and Donald Trump is on the Hill doing his best shuck and jive to try and get his big beautiful bill passed, and it seems as if Republicans ain't buying it. And I, for one, am like, are they not buying it because it's a big beautiful piece of shit, or because Donald Trump hasn't gone far enough? Well, friends, we are going to dig into this and so much more today on the Danielle Moodie Show. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's dive in. Look, I'm never one to count their chickens before they hatch, but here's what I know to be true. Donald Trump does not have the same power or cachet that he did maybe even a few months ago. That Republicans right now are seeing fit and clear to tell him to his face, your big, beautiful bill, it ain't good enough, honey. So go back to the drawing board, because this was the scene in on Capitol Hill today. Trump squeezes House Republicans on his domestic policy bill. And here's where we are. Mike Johnson, Fisher Price Speaker of the House, doesn't seem to have the votes, nor does he seem to be able to whip them. Let me tell you something. Things always seem to be going better than they are. But here's what I will say. When the president of the United States finds himself on Capitol Hill, and I say him because we have yet to elect a woman, when the president of the United States find themselves on Capitol Hill, that is never a good sign. Okay. So for folks who may not know the inner workings of government and how it all goes, the president only goes on Capitol Hill when the Speaker of the House, when the Senate is not doing its job in trying to pass a piece of legislation that they want done. If things were going super well for Donald Trump, guess where he'd be? Mar-a-Lago, doing whatever he does best, which is sitting on his ass or golfing. So whenever we feel ourselves, dear friends, in a place of deep overwhelm, which is often, and I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, I want you to kind of look for the signs that things are not what MAGA has them appearing to be, that they are, in fact, there are cracks in the MAGA sphere, ones that if Democrats were smart, they would exploit, but we know Democrats are not smart, so I digress. So as Speaker Mike Johnson hunts for the votes to pass the measure, the president made it clear that he saw the package as a test of what all things are for Donald Trump: loyalty to him, saying he had been a, quote, cheerleader for the party. No, he actually hasn't. He's been a cheerleader for himself. And warning that any holdouts, listen to this, folks, quote, wouldn't be a Republican much longer. Doesn't that sound like some mob shit to you? Like, if you don't bend to my will, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to 86 you, as the kids say. So I just find it really amazing right now that usually when Donald Trump says things like this, guess who hops to? MAGA. When Donald Trump says jump, they say, how high, boss? Do you want me to reach the sky, boss? Do you want me to touch the plane, boss? Like, that's the kind of energy that they get. But right now, here's where we are. The entreaties appear to do little to resolve the rifts that have plagued the measure for weeks. Many Republicans emerged from the session with Trump saying they were still not sold and wanted further changes before they could back the bill. Quote, the president, I don't think, convinced enough people that the bill is adequate the way that it is. Representative Andy Harris of Maryland, the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, told reporters as he left the meeting. Harris said Republicans were, quote, still a long ways away, but we can get there. So I don't want folks to get it into their heads that, oh my God, Republicans have found a conscience and now they're not going to vote for Donald Trump's draconian bill that provides an extension of the 2017 tax cuts to the uber wealthy. And where are they finding that money? Well, they're finding it in cutting SNAP benefits. They're finding it in cutting Medicaid. They're finding it in essentially robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's what they are doing. And so, no, friends. It is not the fact that they have found a conscience and now they're saying, oh, no, we can't possibly do this to the people. No, they are actually, there are two factions that are split up right now inside of the Republican Party. There are those that are in, let's call them wobbly districts, right? Who want less cuts to Medicaid, don't want a big deficit, and want their states to have more deductions, etc. Then you have the other faction, which is essentially those uber Republicans who say that Medicaid has not been fucked with enough, that they want to pretty much eliminate that, and that if they don't see the deep cuts that they want, then they're not voting for the bill. So you have these two, right, extreme pieces of the Republican Party right now that Donald Trump, to his detriment, can't seem to bring together. And I just said, what is he doing to try and bring them together? Not actually anything other than offering up threats. So, several Republican factions have expressed concern about the details of the sprawling bill, which would extend the 2017 tax cuts and eliminate taxes on tips and overtime, raise spending on the military and immigration enforcement, cut Medicaid, food stamps, education, and subsidies for clean energy to pay for some of it. When you hear the things that they are going to cut, and let me put it back up real quick: Medicaid, food stamps, education, and subsidies for clean energy. Does that sound like a futurist party? Does that sound like a party that is operating in the future and thinking about what are the things that people are actually going to need? What is this country going to need to be successful? Or are there greedy, fucking maniacal asses just concentrated on the present, right? And that's where they are. This is not a forward-thinking, future-thinking party. And if I were running the Democratic Party, that would be one of the things that I would run on. Who are you entrusting your future to? The Republicans that are regressive, not only in their ideology, but in their policies, or with Democrats that actually are looking at our projected futures and the issues that are revving up right now, and we're putting in and building in fail safes in our policies to ensure that we can weather those storms. It's just like amazing to me that, again, people willingly, tens of millions of people willingly voted for this party to regress, voted for this country to regress. What the fuck do you think is going to happen in 5, 10, 15, 20 years with cuts to education, cuts to food stamps, cuts to Medicaid, and cuts to clean energy? What do you think is going to happen? It's not rocket science, right? To look at where we are currently and the deficits that we have, and then project them into the future, a generation, and see America having spent the last decade plus falling behind the world. I told you this yesterday, right? That there are people that are saying that the decisions that Donald Trump has made over the last 3.5 months are going to take a generation to fix. And that is an optimistic presentation, right? Like that's an optimistic assumption that it will only take a generation. So you are looking at this quote unquote big, beautiful bill, and all it is a big, beautiful pile of shit. It is shitting on the poor. It is shitting on the working class. It is shitting on small businesses. And the only people that are going to benefit are the rich. And you would think that the constant refrain that should be ringing in their ears is eat the rich. But clearly they think that that's just a cute anecdote or a cute mantra to put on a fucking t-shirt and not the reality of what happens when you press people too much and too far. But you know what? Everyone seems to need to be a part of the find out because they consistently want to fuck around. It don't make no sense. So I want you to take a listen to this dum-dum as he is asked on Capitol Hill about cutting food stamps and his response to that in this legislation.
On lowering the price of groceries, how do you justify cutting food assistance in this bill?
Let me just tell you, the cut is going to give everybody much more food because prices are coming way down. Groceries are down. Eggs. You told me about eggs. You asked me a question about eggs my first week. You said eggs. I said, I just got here. Tell me about eggs. And it was going through the roof. You know that eggs now are way down. Everybody's buying eggs. Groceries down. Energy's down. Gasoline is now they're buying gasoline now for $1.99. If you look back, you'll see $3.50, $4. This country, we're going to lose this country. Our country now is respected all over the world. All over the world we're respected. We were a laughing stock. The entire.
Can he say anything that is truthful? Like anything that just came out of his mouth. Was trying to like pull out. I'm like, maybe he's right or saying the truth about like one kernel. No, all of what he just uttered was a lie. First of all, egg prices not down. I was just at the grocery store today and they are still fucking $8.99, $9.99, $10.99, depending on what fucking grocery store that you're going to. So that's number one. Groceries, I just bought like, I don't know, what usually would be probably around $50 worth of groceries was $85. The same small amount of shit that I bought was $85. So no, that beautiful traditional word groceries not coming down. Also, the only thing that he may be kind of right about is gas, but I was just in San Francisco for like a hot minute for an event, and I looked at the gas prices and was aghast. The gas prices in San Francisco are like $6 a fucking gallon. Now, out east on Long Island or in New York, I'm seeing prices around maybe $3, but you're talking about double that. And again, nothing has hit us really yet as it pertains to tariffs. So Donald Trump is asked a very clear question. You campaigned on bringing prices down. You campaigned on all of these things. How do you justify cutting food assistance at a time when everything is sky high? And his response is, things aren't sky high. Everything is great. And by cutting, I'm going to be adding. What the fuck? I don't understand how reporters stand there and say, can you explain to us, Mr. President, how cutting food assistance at a time when food is at an all-time high is actually going to be adding more food? I'm not a math major, but I'll tell you that 1 + 1 that you're doing over here is equaling 4 and not actually 2, because it doesn't make any fucking sense. It's just, and so listen to another and I hate this man. When I tell you that I hate this man beyond belief, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. quote unquote wonderful, from the fuck is that show? I can't think of the name of the show. Shark Tank. From Shark Tank. I can't stand him. One, I think he's a racist. I think he's an asshole. But what, every once in a while, right? Twice a day, a broken clock is right. Listen to what he has to say about Donald Trump's bill.
Now, we've got a situation in this new beautiful bill, and I don't think anybody reads these things. I read it. I read all these bills through the eyes of small business, and I found a section in there that looks like a cut and paste that says the IRS will get extended powers to audit small businesses for up to 9 years that took the ERC. Now, that is going to cause chaos in valuations. If you have that hanging over your head, it almost seems unfair and un-American to do that to small business. And I'm not sure everybody's aware of this provision in the bill. I'm heading down tonight to the Hill to get a gong and walk down the halls banging it, saying, what are you guys doing here? You can't do that to small business. Somebody should fix this in the big, beautiful bill, because it's not beautiful for small business. That's totally unfair, because if you're trying to do a deal or get financing or raise capital, and you know you've got that uncertainty for 9 years, that's going to cause chaos.
So the only reason why I showed this is because O'Leary, huge Trumper, right? Like, he's on CNN, he's on CNBC all the time, right? Because of his presence in everybody's living room that watches Shark Tank, right? And so even Kevin O'Leary, who, again, I can't fucking stand, is breaking with Donald Trump on this quote unquote big, beautiful bill and calling it a nightmare for small businesses. The only people that this bill is good for is the uber wealthy. And I wish that the reporters that are asking these questions would actually ask follow-up questions, right? So you're literally looking to rob Peter to pay Paul, right? People that already have more than a disgusting amount of wealth, that you're trying to give them even more wealth, right? On top of what it is that they have. And folks that can't afford to buy groceries now can't even rely on food assistance. How do you make sense of this to your constituency, to your base, which is not just made up of millionaires and billionaires? Please answer that question. Like, again, it's not rocket science. But you will find that you get these questions that are asked, Donald Trump gives a bullshit answer, and then they just move on. And I wish that in this day and age, again, 10 fucking years into Trumpism, that there would be more of a coordination between outlets on, here are the questions that, like, we need to have, the American people need to have answers to. I'm going to ask 1, you ask 2B, you ask 3C, blah, blah. We all get to run the fucking clips. But again, it doesn't matter, right? Because all these media outlets want is access. And you don't get access if you ask hard questions. And hard questions are basically like, how does your big, beautiful bill make any fucking sense for anyone that isn't a billionaire? Please explain. But alas, that's not what they do. So speaking of people who don't make any fucking sense, but that seems to be the, I don't know, resume grabber for those that have jobs inside of this administration. Kristi Noem, on Capitol Hill, Noem incorrectly defines habeas corpus as the president's right to deport people. The right allows people to legally challenge their detentions by the government, and it's guaranteed in the Constitution. So check this fucking crackerjack out. At a Senate hearing, Senator Maggie Hassan, Democrat of New Hampshire, asked Miss Noem about the issue. Secretary Noem, she asked, what is habeas corpus? Well, Miss Noem said, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right to. Ms. Hassan interjected and said, no. Let me stop you, ma'am. Excuse me. That's incorrect. Ms. Noem's answer, which echoed the Trump administration's expansive view of presidential power, flipped the legal right on its head, turning a constitutional shield against unlawful detention into broad presidential authority. So let's just do a little bit of what no one inside this administration actually does, which is read the Constitution so that they understand what powers the executive branch has versus the other branches of government and what power the president actually has in contrast to what is laid out in the Constitution. Article 1 of the Constitution, which focuses on the powers of Congress, says that writs of habeas corpus are a privilege that, quote, shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. Legal experts generally agree that those directions give only Congress the authority to suspend it. Now, here's the thing that I want to offer, because I say this all the time, but it is important to understand. Language is important, and the language that this administration uses is purposeful. It's not just off the dome, as one would casually believe. When they use terms like there is a war of migrants coming into this country, we're being infested, we're being invaded, right? When they're using this terminology, it is to present a situation that does not actually exist. It is to use warlike terminology to be able, right? To be able to use war policy in order to deport the people that they don't want here, which are namely Black and brown people. So they are used what? The Alien Enemies Act, which has only been used when? During times of war, the last time being when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. When then we just decided that every single Japanese person inside of this country was somehow associated with that bombing. No, but hey, racism, who cares? But we were at war. So when you're at war, there are certain laws that are suspended. But again, who has the right to make those suspensions? Not the fucking president of the United States. It is Congress's decision. Just like, contrary to what Donald Trump believes, he can't declare war via his broke down social media platform. That requires an act of fucking Congress. But according to these MAGAs, right, the only person that has power inside of this government is Donald Trump and the president of the United States. Now, don't get it twisted. The fucking Supreme Court said the same thing when they gave that motherfucker immunity. But they also denied this administration's ability to utilize the Alien Enemies Act because they're like, we're not at war. No one is invading us. But at the same time, what did they also do? Rescind temporary protective status for 350,000 people. I mean, you can have whiplash when dealing with the fuckery that is this country right now. I swear to you, it takes a lot to keep track and take it fucking in. Because on one hand, you're like, does the Supreme Court actually see its role in upholding democracy or just holding the president's hand as he dismantles democracy? Because on Monday, one part is true, and on Tuesday, they totally flip the fucking script on you. But one thing is for sure, there is not a person who has an important role inside of this administration that has read the Constitution. I wish that those people had to go through the same tests that those applying for citizenship have to do in order to pass their citizenship test. Because I guarantee you that if a member of Congress, as Kristi Noem was sitting before them, said, let me ask you a couple of questions, and then ran through some of the questions of the citizenship test, she wouldn't be able to answer them. Fucking dummies. But she gets to say who gets to stay inside this country and who doesn't, who is a terrorist and who isn't. Make it make sense, because it absolutely does not. Speaking of people who don't make any sense, it's been a while since we've actually spoken about the one musty Musk. And that's because he's decided to take a back seat because, well, everyone hates him. Elon Musk suggests he will spend, quote, a lot less on political donations. Elon Musk often warns that America is on the brink of an apocalyptic collapse. Yes, because Black and brown people aren't in shackles and actually have the ability to own property. And women in certain states now still have the ability to decide what they can, will, and won't do with their own fucking bodies. That's the apocalyptic collapse that he is, of course, talking about. The ability for people to identify how they choose and to ask for dignity and respect in service to that identification. The ability of people like myself who are queer to get married and raise children, and live out their American dream. That's the apocalyptic collapse that he is fucking talking about. So again, let's just have some fucking context when we're writing, but that would be too much journalism. Anyway, he's declaring that his avalanche of spending to elect Republicans and his role in the Trump administration are essential to steering, as he said in late March, quote, the course of Western civilization. Because I want Elon Musk steering Western civilization. He can't even steer a fucking Tesla. The shit has been recalled so many fucking times. Anyway, but lately he seems to be having a change of heart. Now, let us understand the change of heart, okay? The change of heart is not because Elon Musk has woken up one day and again, like the Republicans on Capitol Hill, found a conscience. No. He has had a change of heart because guess what? People actually fucking hate him. And they don't just hate him in the United States. They hate him in Canada. They hate him in the UK. They hate him in Germany. They hate him in South Africa. They hate him globally. He is actually, when you think about it, a unifier around people who fucking hate him. So public polling shows that Musk has grown unpopular. Yes, those of us who needed to be polled or just open up your eyes. With voters, and Democrats have rushed to use him as a political foil while Republicans have begun to keep some distance from him. Here's the distance, right? So let's just call a spade a spade. Musk's stocks have been for weeks in the toilet. His board has basically said, can you stop with the extracurricular activity of destroying America and actually come back here and run this fucking company? Now, they think that for some reason, Elon Musk spending more time at Tesla is going to result in a change in people's personal opinion and affinity to that brand. The reality is the brand is ruined. It is toxic. It is wholly associated with Elon Musk, his Heigl, his Nazi sentiments, his love of white nationalists, his hate of trans people. And so, they think that for some reason, that if the person who has caused the damage spends more time at the company, then people will rush back to the brand that they have labeled SWAT stick car to the brand that people have literally thrown Molotov cocktails at and set on fire, that somehow they're going to change his mind because instead of outwardly supporting Donald Trump, he's going to do what he had been doing before, which is funnel his money probably through nonprofit organizations that do not have to declare a fucking thing, and then have the seemingly, optics of us actually not seeing him. So we think that he's not still the puppet master. But I'd like to think, I don't know, that maybe at this point the American people are smarter than that, but he's hoping for the out of sight, out of mind mentality. But the funny thing is, the amount of damage that he has done with his $290 million investment into Donald Trump, which ushered him back into office, is something I don't think that millions of Americans will soon forget. Oh, on top of which, do we think that Donald Trump came up with the idea of bringing white racist South Afrikaners to America on his own? Donald Trump couldn't find fucking South Africa on a map. So, who do we think is behind a lot of the maneuvering that is happening, that is amping up white nationalism in this country? Yeah, it's Stephen Miller, but it's also Elon Musk, because who has more money? And for Donald Trump, the person with the most money has the most sway. Do they think we're dumb? I believe that they do. Nonetheless, Musk has not left Trump's side completely. He accompanied the president last week for part of a Middle East trip that raised new questions about how the tech billionaire, his family, and his companies are benefiting financially from his government role. Newsflash, they're benefiting a ton. Because as his stocks have taken a turn for the worse, he has been able to subsidize himself as the fucking South African welfare queen that he is by being able to funnel out government contracts across agencies with Starlink, with his Tesla Cybertrucks at the Pentagon, with this, with that, bop, 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 bop. So how is he benefiting? A lot. He has roughly, I think it was the last time that I checked, he may, in fact, don't quote me on this, $400 million worth of government contracts. Right? And that's just in America. So why do you think that he was tagging along with Donald Trump to the Middle East? Because that money is that money makes his money look small. Because those people are not out there talking about, oh, I'm the richest person, pop, 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 pop. No, no, no. Their money is like generational billions. Do you know what I'm saying? We kill people billions. I'm looking at you, MBS. So why is he on the tour with his MAGA daddy? So that he can have his hand out and get more money. Because the ultimate goal here for Elon Musk, I know that I do this aside often, but it really, talking about Elon Musk honestly makes me lose faith in humanity. Do you know what I'm saying? That you could be so insatiable, so fucking hateful, so greedy and disgusting that all you can think about is how to get more and who you can hurt in the process of getting more. It's gross. And there was somebody who said the other day on social media that I long for the days when the titans of industry use their money to solidify their presence in our country in terms of building libraries and museums and beaches and this thing. Look, I know those people were white nationalists and racist too, but you have the Carnegie, right, music hall, you have these landmarks, you have the Rockefeller Foundation, you have these places that through the course of modern times have been able to actually do good with the bad money that they started with. But Elon Musk and the rest of these like modern billionaires have just like jumped the fucking shark. And they're like, fuck that. I don't care about what my legacy looks like, right? Like, I want to like as if I don't know, maybe when he dies, he has a plan to shoot his casket into outer space and, you know, and be resurrected as like the king of Mars. Like I have no idea, but I will tell you that some of these people, they're just sick. You know, like they're sick and they truly do make me question humanity. Do you know, like when you can be that ego driven, that greedy? So it's really important for me, as I'm sure it is for all of you, to actually find some balance between those that are just spending their time and energy causing the most amount of harm and looking for those that are actually doing good. Because I just find this billionaire sect to be fucking gross. Last aside, did you see Jeff Bezos' fiance's bachelorette party? The pictures that were going all around the internet of her and Kim Kardashian and Kris Jenner and Katy Perry, and fucking Vogue called it like the new girl gang. And what I loved is that all of the people in the comments, at least the comments that I were looking through, was just like, no matter what you do, Vogue, you're not going to make fascism like the thing. Like you're not going to rebrand it with like these Botox filled hags. But I like, if you haven't seen the picture of her bachelorette party, please go and look, because it was just like, I pray that people are getting to the point with some of these billionaire celebrities where they're just like grossed out by them, because I know that I am. Anyway, dear friends, it is Tuesday, which means that for the next 10 minutes, we are going to do Town Hall Tuesday, where you get to ask me questions, your burning questions. Write question in all capital letters, followed by your question, and I will do my best to get to them. But before we do that, if you are new here, welcome to Damnation. And if you have yet to click that button and subscribe to this channel, please do so. I'm doing my best to hit 25,000 subscribers, and we are just inching along like the little train that could. So do hit like, comment, and subscribe, and help me feed the algorithm fairies and get into as many people's feeds as possible. So without further ado, let's get into Town Hall Tuesday. Hello, dear friends. So it is time for Town Hall Tuesday. Please do put your questions up. Oh, this is good. Wisdom, I feel like sometimes you ask me like the most human questions, which I really appreciate. Question, do you ever go out dancing, bust a move? As a matter of fact, I do. Go out dancing, particularly when spring and summer hits New York City. There are so many concerts and so many DJ sets that I go to. So as a matter of fact, this weekend, coming weekend, is Memorial Day weekend, and that is a big DJ music weekend in New York City to kick off summer. So I am super excited. And I am one of those people. I am old. I go out and I actually dance. I don't hold up a phone recording the fucking DJs. I don't understand this younger generation that goes out to clubs and club spaces and music venues and doesn't dance. I don't understand it. And as a matter of fact, I hate it to the core of my being. So yes, good question, Wisdom. Thank you. Question from Triple Dose. Have you seen the news about the FBI whistleblower, Jonathan Buma, who alleges the South Africans Musk and Thiel were recruited personally by Putin in 2018? German SDF has a documentary on it. No, I have not seen that. A, I would not be surprised. B, I'm going to check out that documentary. Do you know the name of the documentary? Triple Dose. Thank you for sending that my way. Brianna Arabia. Question: does it make sense to buy a home in another country just in case? Look, if you have the resources and the ability to buy a home in another country, what are you waiting for? Absolutely. Go and buy a home and set up life in another country, because if you can afford to have those types of options, you should absolutely take those options. The writing is on the wall, folks. We talk about this all the time here. And we talk about it in contrast to Germany in the 1930s and those that stayed behind because they thought that they could weather the Hitler storm. And we know how that turned out. So if you have the ability, the financial ability, which so many people do not, to buy a home or set up housing in another country, absolutely do that. Yes, eternal energy. That is the truth. Thank you. I'm looking for questions. Do you plan on traveling to other countries? Yes, I'm actually going to be traveling a lot this summer. So I'm excited about that. Gus, what kind of music are you into? I am into deep house music. I am also into neo soul. I am also into jazz, acid jazz, a range of music, honestly. Bossa nova, like I love music a lot. So good question. Carl, has anyone, including you, ever considered becoming an outlaw in order to bring democracy back to America? I mean, I'm pretty much probably on my way. I'm certain I'm on somebody's list. And I'm certain that people think about it, but what do you mean by becoming an outlaw? I think that you can still work right now within the confines of our fading laws in order to fight back. But, when you start to criminalize people's existence, I think that you'll probably get to that place. Danielle from James. Why won't the media talk about Trump's cognitive decline and his clear dementia? I don't know if it is dementia that Donald Trump has, but clearly there is a cognitive decline. And I wish that they would give Donald Trump the same treatment that they gave Joe Biden for 4 years, but they won't, right? Because they're afraid of Donald Trump and they weren't afraid of Joe Biden. Why didn't Jake Tapper write a fucking book about Donald Trump's decline and all of the things that his administration was hiding and his enablers are doing, instead of writing one about Joe Biden? I don't know. Who is going to buy all of that food when the Velveeta villain? That's funny. Cut snap. I don't know. Donald Trump does not care, right? And you already have farmers currently being hurt. And these are the same farmers that voted for Donald Trump. And they're currently being hurt by other countries right now saying that we don't want your products. We're not going to buy American anymore. That's what Donald Trump has created with this bullshit trade war, is that other countries are like, okay, then we don't need you. We're not going to support your economy when you're trying to trash ours. So I don't know what is going to happen, but I do know that places like China and Canada and others in Mexico are like, you can keep your food, you can keep your corn, you can keep your wheat. We don't want it. And so where will that go? Who knows? But again, they don't think that far ahead, right? Like that's the thing that I am realizing. They only exist in this very small now. And I don't mean the now as in like, oh, exist in the now and be present. I mean that they are so short-sighted that they can't project themselves into the future or this country into the future in any type of meaningful way. Question. Ooh, question. What is your favorite book? I don't know. It's like, what is the genre? I think that I will say that one of my favorite books right now, and it's a new favorite book, is Binti from Nnedi Okorafor, and it's an African futurism book about this young African girl who is like this master harmonizer, and she can like create all of these different like tools, and she gets accepted to this incredible university like planets away, but the culture of her family doesn't allow for her to leave like their town, let alone Earth. So that is one of my favorite books. I just finished rereading it for the second time. Love it. Binti, Nnedi Okorafor. So good. Great question. Looking for your questions. Haha, Philip. So tomorrow, after much peer pressure and bullying from Wajahat Ali, my co-host of Democracy Ish, and many of you here that watch Democracy Ish and the Danielle Moodie Show, I am 2 episodes away from finishing season 1. I'm going to finish it tonight, obviously, because tomorrow, I think Wash and I are doing our recap on Andor season 1. I think we're doing it at 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So I, had to watch it. It took me 3 episodes, Philip, to get into Andor. But now I am hooked. So this week we're doing an analysis on season 1, and then I think next week or the week after we're gonna do season 2, because I was able to like totally binge it. What I will say, because I want to save like my deep thoughts until tomorrow, and this will be on Substack Live tomorrow. Let me just double check in my calendar so that I can tell all of you, so you'll be the first to know. Yes, we're doing it 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, is our breakdown of Andor season 1 on Substack. And my Substack, if you do not follow me there, is the Damn Digest. But I will say this, Philip. The show depressed the shit out of me. And it depresses me, and I realize why I like the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars. Star Wars is just essentially taking our oppression, our, greed, power hungry, all of those things, and then putting it into space. Whereas Star Trek is about like journey and discovery of new, planets and like what have you. And that's why I like Star Trek better. Star Wars is just like, oh, so even in the year 2250, there'll still be some fuckery, but we'll be in the galaxies instead of on Earth. Like, that's how I feel. But tune in to tomorrow's Substack for my full breakdown. Do you think, DJ Suffragettes, Sally, do you think the Democrats will ever put up a resistance? No, I don't. I think that the people of this country will continue to put up a resistance. And I believe on June 14th is the next big march that is going to be organized, the next big protest that is being organized by 5501 and Indivisible on June 14th. But no, I think that Democrats are happy with the status quo. And I think that that's the problem, that they think that things are just like, we're magically going to have midterms and things will just swing back where they go. And we'll just sit idly by as, Republicans implode. And we don't need to do anything different other than what we've been doing. I think is a disaster. So unfortunately, no. Ooh, is Andor season 2 way better? Exciting. Oh wow, Joe, you've been binge watch Andor 1 and 2. Did you talk to anybody for days? Did you just lock yourself in the house? Yes, and this is how I believe. I believe Star Trek has has some hope for a better humanity, and that's why like it just occurred to me why I never like got into Star Wars, and I think that that was the reason why. It just made me feel like it's never going to get any better. Um Oh, this is a good question, and thank you for the donation. Lynn, how do we generate more resistance music? We shall overcome, and which side are you on? Only go so far. P.S. You are so right on about everything. I hope I'm not right about everything. I'd like to be wrong and something good happen. That's such a good idea. It's such a good question about generating more resistance music. I don't know. I feel like the music, like the two that you named, I feel like that came a lot from the Black church, right? And gospel singers and folk singers that saw themselves not separate from, but a part of the larger movement and struggle for civil rights. Whereas I feel like, you know, these newer musicians see themselves as being at arm's length from this because they have accumulated so much wealth that they think that that's going to save them. So I don't know if we'll ever see from mainstream artists. I know that there are, non-mainstream artists who are definitely putting out content, but from mainstream artists, I don't know. But I will say this, and people may push back against me, and that's totally fine because to some, Beyonce is a polarizing person, which I truly don't understand. But I believe that her Cowboy Carter album, if you listen to it from start to finish, I took that very much as a reclamation on American history, a reclamation on Black American music, and for somebody like myself who loves all types of music, country music has never been music that I've gotten down with because I've always associated it with racism, frankly. And so that album, which I know for those that are country music enthusiasts are like, it's not a country album, but for me, who has always been on the outskirts of country, it definitely provided a window into and also an accessibility that I didn't have before, and then elevating Black country artists past and present that I was unaware of. So that to me, if you really listen to the album, much like Black Parade, felt like a resistance album. I'm going to get to one more question. I just saw one. Question from Inferno. Do you still see martial law in our future? Unfortunately, Inferno, yes, I do. I think that Donald Trump and his ilk are plotting and planning ways to be instigative to the American public, particularly to Black people, right? Like there are conversations that are percolating about the pardon for Derek Chauvin, the depraved ex-cop who murdered George Floyd. And this is being pushed by Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's being pushed by Elon Musk and by others to get him a federal pardon. Regardless of which, the man is not getting out of prison because he also had state charges against him. But I believe that even conversations like that, whisperings like that, are all about getting Black people into the street to create a scenario of violence. And so that's something that I have been saying, which is why when these protests and these marches come around, I continue to tell Black people and folks of color to stay home, because I believe that they can use their energy in a different way and not put their bodies on the line in the way that this country has expected of us. And we have seen a lot of bloodshed and loss of life because of it. So those are my final thoughts. And yes, Philip, completely correct. But again, these are things that like I didn't know. So I thank pop culture and entertainment for being able to introduce me to that. All right, dear friends, I am out of here today. Thank you so much to those who provided donations today. Your generosity goes a long way. Even $1. This is independent media. It allows me to do the work that I do and put out the kind of content that you all deserve. I appreciate all of you for showing up. If you have not hit subscribe, please do so and subscribe to this channel. And when this video goes up, share, post, and get it out there and help the algorithm fairies. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Reminder, I am live on Substack tomorrow, twice on Wednesdays. I'm live at 12 p.m. Eastern with my friend Jared Yates Sexton for the check-in, where we check in on our emotional and spiritual well-being during the time of a collapsing empire. Then again at 2 p.m. with Wajahat Ali, when we're going to dive into Andor season 1. And then back here, 5 p.m. Eastern for the Danielle Moodie Show. Wednesdays are a day I don't rest. Appreciate each and every single one of you. And I hope to see you on Substack tomorrow. And then back here, 5 p.m. Eastern. As always, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane. And in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow. Be well.